Hello, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. This is Paint the Town Dead, and I am one half of your hosts, Caitlin.
I'm 3/4 of the hosts.
That math does not add up. I may not know much, but I know that math does not add up.
What does that add up to? 125%?
I think that's right.
That's how much effort we give every single week.
Yeah,
Welcome
boy.
to Paint the Town Dead. 125, baby. Not the number of episodes. That's the percentage that we do.
Very good.
Yeah. You know how people say give 100%? And people are
No.
like, give 110%. No. 125%. $1.25 of effort.
$1.25.
At least.
Wow.
Every single time.
I like your stance.
Thank you.
I'm for it.
It's what I do.
Yeah. Well, hey, Andrew.
Hey, what's up?
Hey. It's good to see you.
Is it?
Yeah, we're recording this a little late. We're dancing on the deadline.
Yeah.
Because I'm me, of course, and procrastination is my middle name. Should be my first name, but I procrastinated.
Honestly, it'd be weird if I met somebody who was not a procrastinator of some sort. I don't think those people, I don't know them because they are in another stratosphere of like society.
Yeah.
So I don't get to meet them anymore.
Yeah.
They've moved on.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you procrastinate? Yes. You're a normal person as far as I know. If I met somebody who was like, I got that all done weeks ago. Like, okay.
What's wrong with you?
Like, shouldn't you be like living in an airship or something? Like, we shouldn't know each other.
Are you an astronaut? What's happening here?
And they're like, yeah, I was on the space station, ISS, for like a few years. And not a big deal. Don't even worry about it. I helped get that rover up to Mars. That's what we do, you know.
Dude, that thing is pretty cool. You know what John gave as a gift to his friends and family?
A rover.
Well, he got their names on the rover that's up there right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that a great gift? This was before he and I knew each other. But he got all his friends and family, as I think it was like Christmas or a gift or something. He got all their names on the rover. They're all in space together.
Did you see that picture of a cloud?
Of a cloud? No, I saw the blue moon.
Yeah, it was a cloud.
Wait, I thought Mars didn't have an atmosphere.
It has a thin atmosphere.
Oh, okay.
But not much of one. So
that's so exciting.
I think clouds are pretty rare there. Whereas, say, like Venus, clouds for days.
Is Venus hot?
Very hot. Because
Okay.
it's hot because...
We've talked about this. And
yeah. Venus is closer to the sun than we are. It is the second planet from the sun. And also has a very thick,
it's
noxious...
our neighbor? Venus is our neighbor?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I think either it or Mars are the like closest in size to Earth as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Venus has like a very thick, noxious atmosphere and has like clouds of sulfuric acid.
It's gaseous.
Yeah, like
is it a gas giant?
No.
Oh.
It is rock.
Oh.
The Soviets actually landed some craft on it before.
What happened to it? Did it like
disintegrate? Basically.
Wow.
The pressure is also very intense, so it was crushed under the pressure.
Where does it rain diamonds?
Either Neptune or Uranus. We never remember.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Neptune. I think that's what we talked about.
Venus is sulfuric acid rain.
Ouch.
So the whatever craft that the Soviets sent down there did not last very long, but it was able to take some pictures.
What did it look like? I haven't seen that.
Have you seen the pictures of Mars?
Yeah.
It's like that, but yellow.
Ooh.
Kind of. That's what it sort of looks like.
I bet it smells bad.
Probably.
Probably smells like farts.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's what sulfur. I mean,
yeah.
Sulfur and methane and things like that.
Yeah, so Venus seems like a problem.
A little hostile.
Yeah. You can go to Venus in Wolfenstein 2, and that's where you meet Hitler.
In Venus? In space?
Yeah, that's where he's moved to after the events of the first Wolfenstein.
How about that?
Yeah. It's a pretty good game.
Doesn't seem quite scientifically possible.
None of that game is. It's really good, though.
Oh, okay, cool.
Especially the story.
Oh, Wolfenstein?
Yeah.
And Hitler?
Yeah.
Okay.
They still haven't made that third one where they're definitely going to have Mecha Hitler that you kill. Because that's what you do in Wolfenstein games.
Wait, what did you say?
Mecha Hitler.
Mecha?
Yeah, as in mechanical Hitler.
Oh.
Because at the end of the original Wolfenstein 3D, you fight Hitler and his head is on a robot body.
Well, so he's like the Terminator, kind of.
Kinda. So that's like the logical conclusion that the third game will have, I'm sure.
Interesting.
Can't wait.
Okay. Well, on that note.
Yes, please get us on track.
Okay. Andrew, I'm doing the case this week. We're getting back to our normal swing after our year anniversary debacle special.
Debacle's a good way to describe it.
But I had fun, and I don't care what anybody thinks. I still have a lot of those snacks left, too.
So, yeah, we're getting back into the swing of thing.
Yes.
We're a couple of regular swingers. Let's get to it.
What is wrong with you? Okay. Actually, you added this case that we're going to talk about.
You better believe it.
You added it to the list.
Caitlin got mad at me because I knew what the case was already.
You heard me listening to a video, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's what I thought. And I was like, no, don't listen. You're like, I put it on there.
I read everything about it already.
Well, I'm going to tell you this case from my mouth. Well, actually, it's really mostly from, I'm sorry. I backtracked out of where I was going. It's actually mostly from the mouth of Mara Leverett, who wrote this article for the Arkansas Times in July of 2007, which was a scary long time ago.
Yeah, let's not think about that.
Was that 14?
It was 14 years ago.
You know why I know that? It's because I got Jackson in 2007 and he's 14.
Oh, I was going to say...
that's when you graduated.
High school, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I was going to say because I can do math by 7 really easily.
That's weird.
Because of football.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I was
like,
7, 14, 21, 28, 35, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So pretty much almost exclusively my information came from that article written in the Arkansas Times by Mara Leverett. Very good article, very well written. Check it out. The article is called, I will tell you, So Open the Grave. Interesting. Hold on.
That's all staying in.
I inhaled and then choked a little bit.
Yeah. I like to keep things in like that to embarrass Caitlin.
I don't mind. I constantly embarrass myself every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so the case, let me tell you what it is. We're going to talk. This is episode 54. And today we're going to talk about Linda Edwards, which this case was very prominent in Arkansas history. And I've never heard of it. Like, it was a big case. And I can't believe I've never heard of it. So anyway, Linda Edwards, her nickname was Catfish, which I love. So Linda Louise Ockert Edwards was 29 years old in March of 1976, which is when our story begins. She was a divorced mother of 3. Her oldest son had been born with Down syndrome, and he had been adopted by a family that could kind of better look after his needs. This left 6-year-old Toby and his 4-year-old sister Kim with their mom, Linda, and they all lived together in rooms rented in the home of Linda's friend, Mary Patterson. So she was a single mom, trying to make ends meet. And to do that, Linda had been working as a bartender at a few restaurants in the Hot Springs area. And that is until she applied for a new job with the Garland County Sheriff's Department. And she was hired on as like a deputy. It said to work as a dispatcher. I don't know if she worked her way up to a deputy or how that worked, but basically it's never okay. If she worked her way up, she worked her way up very quickly. Cause when Garland County Sheriff Leon Barlow hired her on, he initially told her he'd give her a week's trial run. And he said he was super glad he did because she just did a dandy job is what he said.
Yeah, I bet if I ever got a job and they were like, we're going to give you a week trial, I would never have those jobs because I'm a very slow learner, I feel like. But yeah, usually if I worked there for a while, people are like, hey, you're one of the best workers. But it's like, it takes me a bit to get to...
I get that.
Going from 0 to 60 in 4 weeks instead of 3 seconds or whatever a car does.
I just want to make sure I get everything right. And sometimes I get overwhelmed with the details, wanting to do everything right. And so it kind of slows me down. But once I get there, I'm fine. Sorry, this.
What are you doing?
The saliva is still in my windpipe.
Oh my gosh. Maybe we will cut some of this.
I'm sorry. Okay. So Linda had been attending Garland County Community College and was within 1 semester of graduating when she was hired on to the sheriff's department. She said that she just needed the steady income for herself and for her kids. And with her new job, she was hopeful for a better future for all of them. But about a month after she began her new job, Linda found out she was pregnant. And this was unexpected. Very unexpected. Yes. So, on August 21st, 1976, so we're going from March to August, we're skipping a few months, Linda finished her shift at work and headed back home to have dinner. And when she got home, she told Toby and Kim, her kids, that they would be going with Mary Patterson to see a movie. So Linda drove her kids, Mary, and Mary's children to the theater, but she didn't go in. She left Mary with $15 for tickets, snacks, and fare for a cab home if Linda was late or did not show up to drive them home.
Man, the value of $1.
I know. I was like, $15? That's it.
That's the ticket a lot of times.
Why don't you look, see what $15 is from
1976?
Uh-huh.
This reminds me of that congressman, just to get a little political sort of kind of, don't worry about it, don't freak out.
Okay.
Nobody freak out.
Nope.
Where he was like, back in my day, I worked for $6 an hour. And they're like, that's $24 an hour now.
Yeah.
And you're fighting against 15. So maybe be quiet.
Yeah. Maybe Shashola. What is it? Andrew, give us the number.
I'm working on it.
No pressure.
Okay. So
$15.
You want to do 15? Okay.
Yeah, from 1976 to now.
That is $69.34.
Wow. So basically, she gave her $70, which sounds about right.
Yeah, at least the equivalent of $70. Yeah. Except wages have been stagnant since that era, so
yep,
it's a little different.
Yep. So So when Mary asked Linda where she would be, Linda told Mary that she was going to see Thurman. Thurman who? Who's Thurman? Tell me. You don't know. Okay.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you do.
I know.
So when the movie had ended, Linda had not shown back up to the theater to pick up Mary and the kids. So they just grabbed a ride home. She didn't think too much of it. But by 9:30 the next morning, Linda had still not returned home. And that was alarming. So a little after noon, a mutual friend of theirs, her and Mary, Sarah, reported Linda missing. And the search for Linda began. So later that same evening that she was reported missing, Linda's white Chevy Impala was discovered locked and abandoned beside Highway 290 near Fish Hatchery Road, which I don't know where that's at, but it's in the Hot Springs area. The area around the car was searched for days. It was kind of a woodedy type area, but no sign of Linda was found. However, investigators quickly focused in as a suspect on the person that Linda told Mary she was going to see. That's Thurman Abernathy, the police lieutenant at the Hot Springs Police Department. So different department from her. She's with the Garland County Sheriff's Department. He's with the Hot Springs Police Department. Hot Springs is in Garland County.
Right. They probably all know each other to some extent.
Yeah. So we'll kind of talk about that too.
So they probably play softball games against each other.
Maybe. They might.
Or against the fire departments. I don't know.
Or they might not like each other and might not want to be on teams together.
Oh, the police, the
Sheriff's
the
Department.
city and the county?
Uh-huh.
Weird.
So let's talk about that.
Are they like...
in a minute.
Okay.
So when Garland County confronted Thurman and the Hot Springs Police Department, they fully expected the cooperation from another law enforcement agency, but they were met with some difficulties, which was according to the account of Leon Barlow. Remember the guy at Sheriff's Department?
Right.
He hired on Linda. So others remember it differently, and they remember full cooperation with the Hot Springs Police Department. So who's to say? I don't know. But I'm kind of leaning more towards Leon's side. And according to Barlow, the Sheriff's Department was being kept at arm's length by the police department, the mayor, the police chief, and the municipal judge. So a lot of people in charge there that they're kind of being kept at bay about, trying to talk to Thurman Abernathy.
It sounds like every movie where they're like, this is my jurisdiction now.
Kind of. Or it was just one of theirs.
Right.
So,
I mean, that was the big deal that was happening over in the UK recently.
What?
Where the girl went missing and a police officer was suspected of it. And police were being less than helpful for a while until they found her body. And now they've arrested that guy finally.
Interesting. So, Leon speculated that it was because they did not want to see one of their own be under scrutiny for a missing pregnant woman.
Right.
So, yeah. So with little cooperation from the Hot Springs Police Department and the city, not long after Linda's car was found, Barlow requested assistance from the Arkansas State Police. He was like, well, if you guys aren't going to help me, I'm going to go to the top. And so he went to the Arkansas State Police.
So I wonder if also Hot Springs, full of criminals.
Of course.
Should we treat it like the Australia of Arkansas? Where Australia was everybody makes fun of it as oh, it's full of criminals because it was a penal colony.
Maybe.
Should we do that with Hot Springs, except we get to do 1920s gangster voices at them?
Except that's 1920 gangsters. They're a different class than petty criminals.
Yeah, but
Australia.
they probably fathered a bunch of children down there.
You think
in
so?
their time?
Probably, honestly.
Right?
Truly.
Yeah, so...
legitimate or not.
Right. So we could just make fun of them for that.
Maybe.
In your face, Hot Springs.
Take that. You're the Australia.
Yeah. You see?
What was that? That was not Australia.
I wasn't doing Australia. I was doing 1920s gangster.
Oh.
I'm a gangster, see?
That's better.
Yeah.
I think of Janet Snakehole.
Yeah,
Janet Snakehole.
That
see?
works too.
I'm Janet Snake. Anyway, that's from Parks and Rec. So he requested assistance from the Arkansas State Police. But why the laser focus on Thurman Abernathy? Barlow said that a week before Linda disappeared, she confided in him that she was pregnant and who the father was. And I bet you can guess it. It's Thurman Abernathy.
How about that?
How about that? I'm sorry, by the way.
Who could have seen that?
If you hear my phone go off, I'm on call, so I have to have my phone on. So, with the help of the Arkansas State Police, investigators descended on Abernathy's house, and they went through all of his possessions and conducted several interviews. Through the interviews, they found that Linda had shared details of her personal life with multiple people, all of whom gave the same account. And that was, while she had been working as a bartender, Linda had an affair with Abernathy, who was married at the time. And they had called off the affair, so Linda stopped using a contraceptive. But in early 1976, Linda and Abernathy had hooked up again, which resulted in Linda's pregnancy, and the baby was due in December of 1976.
Oh, interesting. So they met before she
Yes.
became a police person.
Yes, that is correct. And they kind of called it off, and then she kind of, got back together, and then she started working for the sheriff's department, and then she found out she was pregnant. So, yeah, a lot of stuff happened in there. So investigators also found that in July of 1976, Linda wrote a long letter to a friend, which you can find online and you can read it, which mostly dealt with her concerns of Abernathy and her pregnancy. In describing the night she told Abernathy about the pregnancy, she said, quote, "That night wasn't too bad. I had realized before he'd be upset, so I was fairly flexible," like she expected it. "But a few nights later, we really had a bout. He drew up his hand. I really thought that night I'd had it. He swung me around the kitchen several times. Of course, I was entirely unreasonable with him that night, and he was furious with me. He finally decided he wanted me to get an abortion." End quote. So investigators learned that Linda had scheduled an abortion, but then backed out. And when Abernathy found out, she said he was, quote, "very mad, scared, and upset," which, you can kind of see. As the pregnancy progressed, the fighting became more intense. And the Friday before Linda disappeared, one of Toby's teachers saw Linda in a blue car with a man, and they were both yelling at each other, which does not sound very good.
No, it usually isn't.
No. So on August 21st, Linda read in the morning paper that Abernathy had been promoted to lieutenant. Remember, this is the day her and Mary and the kids and all them are supposed to go to the movie theater. So on August 21st, Linda read in the morning paper that Abernathy had been promoted to lieutenant, and this infuriated Linda, as she knew this meant a big raise for him, but he was still refusing to help and still refusing to claim the pregnancy. So Linda told a friend she was going to go tell Abernathy he was getting a divorce and marrying her and going to give their baby his last name, or she was going to go see a lawyer on Monday and get her name changed to Abernathy.
What?
I don't know.
Wait, what?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
That part's pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know
quite
about
the
that.
gambit there.
I don't know about that, but I mean, like, the more I think thing would be like, go tell his wife that you're knocked up with his baby. That would probably not go well for his relationship with his wife.
No, but at the very least, you can try and get, child support stuff or something.
I wonder how they proved that back then. Can't do DNA.
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe you just look at a picture and go like, well, look at it.
It's
the same.
You might have. Okay. So her friend warned her to be careful, that Abernathy might hurt her, but Linda was determined and convinced that he would not hurt her, and they made plans to meet up.
Even though he had hurt her before.
Exactly. Yes.
Yikers.
Not good. So Abernathy was interviewed on August 27th, 6 days after Linda went missing. The interview was conducted by state police officials and in the presence of Hot Springs Police Chief Bob Griffith. Notes from the interview indicated that Abernathy refused to sign that he'd been advised of his rights. Why is he being difficult? So during the interview, Abernathy admitted that he and Linda had agreed to meet up the night of her disappearance. According to him, they met at a gas station and the pair relocated to a parking lot behind the Baptist church across from Oaklawn, which Oaklawn is like a horse race place and you can gamble there.
Yeah. I don't know if you could have gambled as much back then. I think they added in a bunch of the gambling stuff relatively recently.
Well, you could at least gamble in the mob times.
Well, that was just everywhere.
Oh.
Those were, a lot of those were secret.
And that I only know that because I read about this weekend.
Yeah,
which is weird.
A lot of those were like they weren't exactly legal necessarily.
I think the horse races. I think were
probably
maybe.
not in the 70s. Probably not.
No,
the horse racing part was
in the 20s.
Oh, in the 20s, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff, but yeah.
Hot Springs is a shady place, but I kind of like it.
It has like quite the history of shady places.
But it's kind of cool.
The only character I know of from Arkansas on King of the Hill is named Rooster, and he's from Hot Springs, and he's a sketchy character.
Well, that sounds about right. I remember when they went to Hot Springs, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
It looks like Hot Springs!
And the end of the episode is they're like, we are never coming back to Hot Springs.
It's a trip, but I like it. Anywho... So he said that they talked for about 10 to 15 minutes about his work, his promotion, and the extra money the promotion would bring, and then just general topics, just chit-chatting. He also stated that Linda never mentioned him that she was pregnant and that she looked all right to him at that time. And he said he then drove away and left her parked in the lot behind the church, and he said that was the last time he saw her.
Isn't that always a story?
Isn't it always?
We were going to meet up, and then we either didn't, or...
I saw her, she was fine. Yeah.
It was totally cool, and
Yeah.
then I left, and who could say what happened?
I don't know. But oddly, he said after he finished his rendezvous with Linda, he met with the patrol officer on duty and sent him home, which was around midnight, which was 3 hours early from his end of shift. And Abernathy did this because, quote, nothing was happening. So he said after he dismissed the officer early, he just continued his patrol alone. He didn't talk to or run into anyone except when he bought a pack of cigarettes. So basically from the time he dismissed that patrol officer to when he clocked out of his shift, that was 2 hours and 13 minutes that were not accounted for. So something else he didn't normally do, he took his police car home with him that night. He said it was because the family vehicle was having trouble that day. So he brought his it's like an undercover police car. He brought it home with him.
Oh.
So, which was not something he normally did.
Isn't that always how it is?
Isn't that funny?
Weird.
So Abernathy was asked if Linda had put any pressure on him to leave his wife and marry her, to which he replied, quote, no more than normal, which is kind of a funny reply. When asked for more specific details about their conversations, he refused to discuss it or anything further. And then he was just kind of back to his normal police duties after that. And he also refused a polygraph of any kind. And he was still just allowed to go back to work like nothing was happening.
They should have put him on E-meter.
What's that?
It's from Scientology.
Oh.
We'll talk about it later, maybe.
Oh, okay. So while he was being interviewed, Abernathy's police car was being combed. His police car was a 1973 Dodge Polaris that was blue. Blue, like the car.
Oh, that was being yelled at.
Toby's friend. Yeah. Toby's teacher. Yeah. But it appeared that the entire interior and exterior had been thoroughly cleaned recently. Extremely cleaned, it said. It said it looked like that there had been like a wet sponge or something that had rubbed a mirror and then like wiped it down, but not gone back and dried it. So it was like smudged. So you could tell it had been cleaned like really recently.
See, that's how you know I committed a crime, is if my car is ever sparkly clean. Like, I'll keep it clean.
Yeah.
I'll vacuum it. I'll wipe it down a little bit. But if it's been like
detailed,
had a once over, I did something wrong. Y'all better come get me.
Exactly. And that's like what these people are like, okay, clearly you did something. You're covering it up. However, no fingerprints or anything else of any forensic notice or anything was collected or discovered. With no clues or other leads, Linda's family was just left with questions and heartbreak. Was she dead? Was she missing? Had she run away? And what involvement did Abernathy have in her disappearance? Like, clearly something sketch. So with no answers, Linda's family was kind of forced to keep going on with their lives. Toby and Kim's father took the children to live with him, and he told them that their mother was on vacation. I mean, what do you tell them? We think your mom's been murdered? Like, that's a hard subject. And Abernathy continued his work as an officer of the law. But Roy Ockert, Linda's brother, just couldn't get past that fact that Abernathy was allowed to work with no repercussions. So he wrote the Hot Springs Civil Service Commission asking that because Abernathy refused to cooperate with the investigation and that he was a person of interest, that he be removed of his position. But nothing happened. Sheriff Barlow was also upset by Abernathy's and the Hot Springs Police Department's attitude towards the case. Very flippant, very non-cooperative. He wrote then Governor David Pryor expressing concern of a cover-up by the police department for one of their officers. But still, nothing happened. No repercussions. Nothing. That is until February of 1977, which was the next year, the following year. So in February of 1977, some hunters were in the deep woods near Malvern hunting for wolves, which I thought was weird. They had brought along with them some like specially trained like sniffing type dogs. And the dogs found more than just wolves when they stumbled upon the scattered skeletal remains of a human. So when investigators arrived at the scene, they collected some evidence, multiple rings and some items of clothing, but no ID or purse or anything like that was found. Also, if it was Linda, something that was missing was her police badge, and they suspected it would be found at the crime scene, but it was not. It was determined that this was a woman, and when it came to finally identifying the remains, they were, of course, that of Linda Edwards, who, it had been determined, died of blunt force trauma to the head. Now, because of where the remains were found, this also changed the jurisdiction to Malvern, which is kind of in the Hot Springs area-ish. So now the case goes to Malvern because this is somebody who has been, it appears, has been murdered. So with this discovery of Linda's remains, Abernathy was arrested and charged with capital murder in July of 1977, nearly a year after Linda went missing. So because he had now been arrested for the crime, he was suspended from the police department. They couldn't let him keep working because he'd been arrested. He immediately posted his $50,000 bond and got out. So, however, the case against Abernathy was pretty much all circumstantial. There was no real physical evidence that linked him to Linda's death. No forensics, no eyewitness, no weapon, no confession, but the case proceeded. So Abernathy hired Little Rock attorney Jack Holt Jr., who argued that all the evidence the prosecution was bringing forward was just hearsay, so it could not be presented in the court. Because apparently you can't present hearsay as like evidence, which makes sense.
Right. If you ever watch an episode of Law and Order, that's one of the main things they'll go like, objection, Your Honor, hearsay. And they'll say, sustained.
I don't know what that means.
Which part?
Sustained.
Sustained means the objection happens. Mm-hmm. Means if I object, and they say,
okay, yeah.
You did it.
You're right.
The other one would be overruled.
Like, you're wrong. No, we're going to keep going.
Yes.
Okay.
Watch Law and Order once in a while. It's very realistic.
You remember when Michael Scott quoted for his audition? He did an entire episode. Every part.
I'm just a cleaning lady. Yeah. Which is like every episode, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. I know Law and Order. Dick Wolf.
Do you?
He's the executive producer. Okay. That's neither here nor there. Okay. So in August of 1978, presiding judge Henry B. Means agreed with Holt, ruling that most of the evidence that the state was bringing against Abernathy was inadmissible in court. The only hearsay type evidence deemed admissible was that Linda and Abernathy had planned to meet the night she went missing, because multiple people had said it, he had said it, so it was admissible. The case was sent back to Hot Springs County, where Malvern is, and the case took an interesting turn there. While it was on appeal, Linda's case passed to the new prosecuting attorney, Dan Harmon, who would later be sentenced to prison for running a drug operation from his office. Seems like a legit guy.
Yeah.
So, of course, you know that Harmon dropped the case against Abernathy, stating he would leave it up to a grand jury to decide whether new charges should be filed. And in March of 1979, Harmon announced that the grand jury had found the evidence insufficient and declined to indict Abernathy, which didn't mean that he wasn't guilty, but that there was not enough evidence to pursue a trial at that moment. But that didn't negate the fact that a trial could happen in the future if sufficient evidence came about. So if they had gone forward and he had been found not guilty, double jeopardy. You can't be charged, I think, unless something crazy comes about that's like
unless
clearly,
you have like compelling new evidence.
Right.
Specifically new evidence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
sort of like when you appeal something, you can't present new evidence on appeal.
Oh, you can't?
Nope.
Didn't know that.
Like if you're like, oh, we're going from the city court to the state court, and they're like, hey,
It's
check
the
out this
same
new
case,
stuff.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of good and bad, you know, like maybe he would have been prosecuted, but on appeal, would it have held up? I don't know. And also, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with a lack of indictment, Abernathy requested he be reinstated as a police officer with the Hot Springs Police Department. He was unanimously granted his request from the Hot Springs Civil Service Commission. Remember, that's the one that What's-His-Face wrote and was like, I don't think he should be there. And they were like, no, you're wrong. Shut up. So they unanimously granted him his request to come back to the Hot Springs Police Department. So he was paid $14,664 of back wages when he returned. However, the day he returned, he was demoted to sergeant for, quote, conduct unbecoming of a police officer. With that, Abernathy resigned. So, I mean, talk about an ego. So 45 years have gone by since Linda's disappearance and murder. 42 since Abernathy had charges dropped against him. There have been some happenings in her case since then. So in 2000, Toby, who was 30 at the time and had kids of his own, requested his mother's files from the state police so that he could look at them because some of his other family had, in the past. But he was denied access to them as this was still, quote, an open and active case. In 2004, he requested her body be exhumed for DNA collection because DNA had come such a long way. And so he was hopeful that this could be a break in her case. This request had to be drawn up and requested by Garland County prosecuting attorney Eddie Easley. And Toby was told that this would take a few months and he was ready to be patient. But by 2007, there was no word from Easley on the process and he would not return calls and messages from Toby and Kim as to what the holdup was. So a few months turned into 3 years, turned into I'm ignoring you. So cool. Now in November of 2019, however, so that's 12 years later after this article was written. In November of 2019, it was announced that plans were finally underway to exhume Linda's body to hopefully collect DNA evidence and breathe new life into her case. This case is almost half a century old. And there's still, it's on the brink there. It's on the cusp. I think they probably had the right guy. They just needed the evidence and maybe forensics has come far enough. So it's kind of exciting. The sad part, kind of, Abernathy, now in his 80s, suffers from dementia and he leaves his wife to speak for him. So it's like.
So it probably wouldn't even be able to get him into trial for realsies.
No.
This happened with, there's a wrestler who committed a murder, Jimmy Snuka, and
CTE? CTE problems?
He had something like where he was like basically on his deathbed when they finally were like, okay, we're going to charge him. And they're like, well, I guess we can't because he's about to die. And then he died. So
it's like, even if he can't come to trial, like I think we have the answer if only we can bring it together, and have that conclusion for Toby and Kim and Linda's family. So Toby has been the biggest advocate for his mother, never giving up hope or letting up pressure to get her case solved. And not only did he and Kim lose their mother the night she was murdered, they also lost a sibling because don't forget, Linda was practically 5 months pregnant. That's a baby right there. When you see a 5-month-old fetus, it looks like a straight up baby, just a tiny one. So they lost a sibling that night as well. And engraved on Linda's headstone is part of a poem she wrote. And I'm going to read to you the full poem. It says, "Are you held by the past? Oh, let it go into a total nothingness. And instead, let there flow the joy of the presence of God that so enfolds you it brings all you can possibly know of health, of abundance, of peace. Thus you grow into the fullness of being. The past is done. Let it go. Let God's goodness, his truth, from now on, be all that you know." And I thought that was very nice. And that's the case of Linda Edwards. Absolutely tragic. That was really, really sad. But even to this day, Toby is still fighting for his mom. So it's
it's frustrating if assuming it is Abernathy, which it probably is.
It's all right there. It's so close.
My official statement is it's probably that guy.
Yeah.
We still won't get like real justice out of it just because of how much time he was able to spend free, and then now he isn't in his real mind.
Right.
Similar one. I checked on the name just to make sure I was going to get it right. The case of Bridget Sellers, where her killer died of cancer the day before he was going to be charged. Like they had him, and it was like, well, too bad, I'm going to die instead from cancer.
So close. And if only they had something, just the one strand of hair, the one speck of blood, and they had DNA evidence.
Or like an eyewitness
or something.
Who was like hanging out at the Baptist church and was like, they didn't leave separately or something like that.
Just something. If they had just had something forensically, just a little minute thing that could tie it all together.
Some dogs are barking.
That was a dog barking. Was it my dog?
I think it was your dogs. They're fine.
It's fine. That was weird.
It probably didn't even pick up on the mics.
That was weird. They don't normally bark like that. Anyway, it's just it's if they could have just had that one scrap, that one little tiny bit of forensics, that could have blown it. That could have blown it out of the water. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it wasn't Abernathy. Maybe it was somebody else. But to me, I mean,
yeah, we could conceivably potentially with DNA evidence or something prove that it wasn't that guy.
Yeah, but
it probably was.
Who knows?
We can say whatever we want about him. He has dementia.
That's not nice.
He's not going to know or remember. What's he going to do about it?
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much all of that 100% almost came from Mara Leverett's article. Also from Fox 16 News, who did a report on the plans to exhume Linda's body, which I haven't found an update since then if they found anything or if they actually got around to it, because not long after that, COVID reared its ugly head. So
yeah. And also, I mean, I know DNA stuff is a lot quicker now, but there's still the possibility that it's part of the backlog.
Could be. Yeah.
Because it's very much not a priority, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at it and you go, well, the prime suspect is not of his right mind at this point, so it almost feels pointless. But I don't think it is pointless. I think answers matter.
Agreed. I agree.
It's like when people are like, why would you bother correcting a person on whether the earth is flat or not? It's like, because it's important that the truth gets out there. Yeah. We can't let the crazies dictate the narrative here.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the case.
Well, that's, as always, it was a bummer.
Yep. We wouldn't have this title if it was all rainbows and butterflies.
Maybe we should make a new podcast.
It's called Rainbows and Butterflies?
Called something hilarious or pun-based that doesn't sound bad. I'll think of it later.
Okay.
I'm not good on my feet on this.
Okay. Me neither. All right. Well, what you been up to? What you been looking at? What's been happening? Tell me.
I've been doing a lot of cleaning and reorganizing in my house because it's...
Boy, howdy have you. You showed me some pictures.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, but I gotta make it more of a mess to unmess it right now. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Yes, you do.
So that's been kind of fun just because... and also I'm like, wow, this area is really clean. Don't look at the rest of the area where I put everything that was in this area.
You'll get to it when you get to it. That's all.
That's basically just
one step at a time.
It's the process of you gotta tear it down to rebuild it because the foundation's bad. Or something.
That's right. You heard it.
Yeah. Oh well. But so that's kind of been my main thing I've been doing as far as like things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Trying to think of what I've been doing. Not much.
Working, probably.
A lot of work all the time only. But it is my birthday this weekend and it's my days off. So that turned out really well.
Yes. Also, you got your couch finally.
I got my big girl couch that I ordered in October.
Did we talk about the whole rigmarole?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, real quick, in case we did, I'll go through it real quick. I came over and John was like, we're getting the couch tomorrow. Yeah. And I said, yeah, right, as a joke. And then turns out, no, it wasn't coming the next day.
Joke.
It was like a few days later.
Well, it would have been the next day, except for they were like, we're going to call you with your delivery time because it's going to be here. So we'll call you the day before with your delivery time. And I was
didn't
like,
even call you.
No,
you
I
had
called
to call
them.
Yeah.
And it was like 8:00 at night. And I was like, I was supposed to get a call about, oh yeah. Okay. Your delivery time is between 7:30 and 9:30. And I was like, AM? And they were like, no, PM. And I was like, astounded, like floored. I was like, I'm in bed by 8:00. I have to wake up at 4. And I was on call that night. I was like, that is absolutely ridiculous. And the only thing they could do was change my delivery date. And I was like, this is Furniture Row, by the way, if you want to know, Furniture Row.
Just put them on blast.
I am, because that is 7:30 to 9. What if I had children? Like, what if I had taken time off work to have it delivered during the day? Because you had to be there for it. So what if I had taken time off work to have a couch delivered, and they're like, oh, it's between 7:30 and 9:30. And I wouldn't even, if I hadn't called, I wouldn't have even found out. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Amazon won't even drop stuff off at your door after 8 p.m. So I was, 9:30?
Flabbergasted.
9:30? Yeah. No way! I'm not moving a couch into my house at 9:30 at night.
I could be living a life of like waking up at 1 p.m. every day, and I'd still be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm sorry. I'm very animated about this because it's very frustrating. So yeah, I was like, that's not going to work. And well, we can change your delivery date. And I was so ticked. So they sent me the thing and they're like, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this to somebody else? I said 2. I like my couch, but I waited like 6 months for it and it has stains on it too. And you were going to deliver it at 9:30 at night. She's like, well, there's a chance it could come early. I was like, there's also a chance it could come late. I'm not staying up till midnight waiting for a couch. I was so ticked. So Furniture Row, don't recommend it.
Yeah. Got him.
This is what podcasts are for.
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know. That's about all I've been up to.
I got a new lamp, which I was excited to get today. And when you came here, you saw John frustratedly trying to put it together. And it's like this. It's like just a little bit off where it leans just a little bit. So got to return that, which is frustrating. And then I've got a table coming in and a new rug. And it's just getting all homey. Did you like the couch? You sat on it.
It seemed good. It's certainly better than what you had before. That's for dang sure.
That's very true. The one thing I do like about this couch is that it is comfortable. It's very large. And I designed it. I picked out how it was laid out and the fabric of the couch and the fabric of the pillows.
Well, that explains why it took so long.
Why?
Custom stuff takes longer.
6 months?
I don't know. I don't make couches.
Yeah, I don't think it should have taken that long. And,
well, there's also COVID stuff probably.
And don't deliver it with stains at 9:30 at night.
There's still
Get out.
COVID stuff probably has delayed everything in the world.
Actually, I know that's why it did, actually.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
What was it? I ordered a new surge protector and an HDMI splitter recently. Uh-huh. And they were like...
From Amazon?
Yeah. And they were like, hey, this will arrive on Saturday or whatever, or Monday. And it arrived on like Saturday. I was like, whoa, what happened?
What did happen?
That's pretty wild.
Also, to put somebody on blast, well, I don't know if it's... But I ordered a poster for my favorite band in December.
Death Cab?
Yep. They had these limited time. In their defense, it was not them, the band, or their usual like product company. They collaborated with some other person who created these limited edition poster things. Anyways, it was really cool. I was super excited. I still haven't gotten it. It's almost April, and I ordered it December 17th.
My dad and I had a similar thing where Sporting Kansas City, the soccer team, they had limited edition versions of their black Argyle jerseys.
Cool.
And they were like this huge deal. People were like, wow, that's the coolest jersey ever, because it was. And basically my dad ordered one for me for Christmas, and it did not arrive until like March or April of that next year or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I get it. They said, we will have your poster shipped out in late January, then early February. Then they're like early February. Then late February, Like, we're going to get it. No, that was it. That was last. I haven't heard. And I sent in, an email. I will tell you. I sent an email in checking on the status of my stuff.
Is it just a poster? Or is there...
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a poster. I sent it to Live Nation merchandise. You suck. Because I sent in 3 weeks ago, I sent in a thing just like, hey, this is my order number. I'm just checking on it. Like, I haven't heard anything. It was supposed to send out in early February, and I haven't heard anything since. And I still haven't heard anything. They're like, please excuse our delay. It could take a week. It's been 3 weeks and nobody's gotten back to me. So you suck, Live Nation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Caitlin is on blast today.
The pandemic has ruined a lot of stuff as far as shipping. Not just like the shipping stuff.
It's okay
in general,
if you just get back to me. Like, it's fine. I'll wait longer if you just give me an update. And you work from home to send these update emails to answer customer stuff. You work from home for that.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I shouldn't have gotten a response.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like stuff like the PS5s. They're like,
yeah,
that stuff's not going to get any better anytime soon because the supply line is so jacked up.
Yeah.
There's such a shortage of, not just for PS5s, but for anything tech related, like chips of all sorts are all kind of
really
in high demand and short supply right now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, in part because of the pandemic and stuff.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's...
Well, a poster does not have any of that.
No, I would think printing some stuff of special paper is not going to take as long. I don't know.
And they were limited edition, so there was 4 posters of 4 different colors, and they only had a limited amount. So it's not like you had an insane amount. You could literally control how much you allowed for a pre-order. So...
I mean, that's the whole point of a pre-order.
Yeah.
You're supposed to determine how much you need beforehand.
Well, and it kind of was a pre-order. They never released it for you had to special order it. And it's not like released, and it won't be. I mean, it's only a limited time, limited edition thing. But it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah. You know.
But anyway... I'm off now. I'm done.
Okay.
I feel better. Thanks, everybody.
I don't know what you been looking at this week. First of all, how many Star Warses have I been looking at?
0.
It is 0 again.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah, I'm more obsessed with a different thing right now.
Let's talk about that. Okay. I'm excited. I like this, and I think people who listen to this podcast are probably on the same wavelength. So let's go.
Possibly. So I finished that Leah Remini book, which I liked it for the most part. I didn't like any of the parts where she was like, Hollywood, this is what it's like, which is fortunately like 2% of the book.
Good.
It's 98% the Scientology stuff.
Good.
Been watching her show, Scientology in the Aftermath or whatever it's called, which is on Netflix. And I started listening to the audiobook for Going Clear. It's more Scientology stuff.
You're down the hole.
This is what I'm doing now. So I've let's see. I've basically had 2 full days of being able to like listen to it because there's one day I was busy and doing something. I couldn't listen to an audiobook. And I've listened to about 7 hours of it so far. There's 10 more hours to go. It's a long one.
Wow.
You may have heard of Going Clear. There was like an HBO documentary called that. I think it's HBO. There's a documentary called Going Clear. It's about Scientology. It's based on this book. I haven't watched it, but so I'm listening to it. I just got through basically like most of the first 6 hours basically are all about L. Ron Hubbard and what a weirdo he was. He is fascinating, but also terrible. Like he has a lot of crazy stories, but also a lot of his crazy stories are obviously fake.
Yeah.
Like he talks about all the times he got like he was on a ship during World War II and it got sunk, and he was like him and 5 other people survived, and it's like, well, that never happened. Anyway. But my favorite is when he was on a ship during World War II. He was on a submarine, and he was a sonar tech, which sonar is how you find stuff while you're underwater.
You ping the sound back.
And off the coast of Oregon, him and the other sonar guy were like, oh man, there's a Japanese sub here. And so they get into this big fight with this Japanese sub, and it goes on for like 68 hours. They're fighting this Japanese sub. Turns out there was no sub of any sort. It was like this weird magnetic anomaly that's known to be in that area. So they spent 68 hours fighting nothing.
Wow.
So good job, Elron. The official stance of the Church of Scientology is that they fought something and they sunk something there. So
What was it?
I guess they're saying it was Japanese sub or whatever to make him sound cooler. Best one is when he ordered them to start attacking a Japanese island. Fun fact, that island was not owned by the Japanese. It was a Mexican island.
Oh my gosh.
And so they just shelled this Mexican island for no reason.
Oh my gosh.
So he was really bad at his job.
Doesn't sound like a great guy.
No, that's not even the worst part. That's like incompetence. There's all the other stuff about him that's like a really bad guy.
Tell me. I want to know.
Oh, just how he's like abusive to people. He stole Jack Parsons' girlfriend. Jack Parson was a rocket scientist / occult man. He was a weirdo. He's his own person you need to read about.
Oh gosh.
He's wild. He cheated on his wife like 1,000 times, and he got married while he was still married to his first wife to like a different lady, and he beat her. Like, he was abusive physically and stuff, and beat her. I think he forced her to get abortions or something. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much stuff that I'm like already forgetting in my brain because it was so much just like hitting my brain. Like, that's wild. I've already forgotten because there's more wild stuff happening.
It's so awful.
Yeah, and I'm continuing to learn more and more. E-meters, that I mentioned that. That's basically like a Scientology lie detector, but it's garbage nonsense.
Tell me.
They use it to determine whether you're like, if your body is clear of bad stuff or whatever it is.
What?
I forget what they call it.
You know what this sounds like to me?
What?
Mormonism.
I mean, it is a cult. Is Mormonism a cult? Who's to say? We're not going to touch that anymore. But there's a lot fewer Scientologists in the world. I can fight them more easily.
There is some TikTok accounts. You make fun of me because I'm on TikTok.
Is it like ex-Mormon stuff?
Yes.
I see a lot of that on Reddit.
It is fascinating because, you know, Mormons are very secretive about what goes on inside their temple.
Yep.
And
they sure are.
You know why? Because it's a bunch of hullabaloo. I mean,
they also have way more money than you would think.
A lot. That's like the
heads
point
of Mormonism.
That's like the point to get by.
Kind of like Scientology.
That's what the Mormon. What's that documentary I watch? Murder Amongst the Mormons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just watch it. It's wild.
Yeah, the Scientology stuff is crazy, especially because of for one, they like to use a lot of cool names for things and initials for things.
What is this? In what? Scientology?
In Scientology, specifically. Because, I mean, L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction author, so he is all about that stuff.
Right.
They'll be like, we're going to do Operation Freak Out, which is the one where and a journalist had said mean things about them. So they tried to ruin her life and tried to drive her to suicide and tried to frame her for sending bomb threats to the FBI.
What the heck?
And they almost succeeded.
How did they not?
She took a polygraph, and the prosecutors, and eventually they were able to figure out, like, oh, she didn't do it. And then one day the FBI raided Scientology offices and found documents where they found that plan.
What?
There's also Operation Snow White, which eventually led to them getting tax-free under
status
IRS
or whatever,
yeah,
because their religion.
Yeah, I got to see like part of the promo video on that Leah Remini show where David Miscavige is like, "The war is over," and it's ridiculous.
Which one's he? Who's David Miscavige?
He's the head of Scientology these days.
Still?
Yep.
And his wife is missing.
His wife, nobody's seen her in public anyway.
Yeah, but they're assured that she's totally fine.
Yeah, like they said, oh, she doesn't want to be found.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems legit.
Very sketchy.
Listen, we have a murder podcast. We know. Odds are she does want to be found, and she's also dead.
She's either dead or she's off at one of their like weird compounds being forced.
Yeah, being held against her will,
physical
basically.
labor and being brainwashed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's there's the stuff about like they believe in reincarnation. They also treat children as adults because the
because they're reincarnated.
Yeah, the spirit is it's the same.
Let me
also,
tell
the most
you.
boring part. I want to tell you the most boring part about Scientology.
Tell me.
We're talking about a religion in which it is about a galactic confederation. Like that's part of the religion. A galactic confederation exists. An evil overlord named Xenu killed all the Thetans and sent their spirits into volcanoes. And the Thetans, their spirits are what live inside of us.
What the?
Anyway, the most boring part is that L. Ron Hubbard described their society as just looking like 1950s America. Boring, lame,
racist.
I thought you were a writer, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
You're going to write a society where it's like people just like they did in the 50s. Lame. They're out in space and doing weird stuff.
So why don't all the Scientologists dress like they're in the 50s?
I mean, a lot of them dress like weird Navy people from the 50s.
Oh, really?
The whole Sea Org thing.
Except if you're famous.
Yeah. One of the main pictures you ever see of David Miscavige is him dressed up like he's a fancy Navy admiral.
What the heck?
Like, I'm not even lying.
Did he ever serve in a branch of the armed forces?
No, but he was a part of the Sea Org. He was one of the heads of it.
Which is not a branch of the armed services.
No, unless you're a Scientologist and you think they're out changing the world, saving the world even.
They're cruising on a cruise
because you got to go clear or whatever it is. And once you go clear onto the bridge, as they call it, and you go into your operating Thetan levels and all this other stuff.
That is, wow. But you know what? Not to disparage anybody's beliefs or...
Let's disparage.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Not to disparage anybody's beliefs or anything, but if you grow up in a certain religion, it's what you know. It's what you're taught.
Yeah, definitely.
And so to you, it's totally normal. And to you, it makes sense. From the outside looking in, it's absolute insanity, cuckoo nonsense. I mean, absolute. But you could say that about a lot of religions. I mean,
yeah,
almost every one of them. But Scientology, I think, goes the thing.
For one, it goes out of its way to put its members into debt.
To control you. Yes. Debt. Yeah, that's a way of control through debt.
Yeah. They charge you tons and tons of money. And then when you're like, oh, I don't have enough money, they're like, you can find the money. You can take a loan.
Leverage
your... Like, they do stuff like that.
Yes. And that is a cult tactic.
They
That's what NXIVM, that sex cult thing with what's his face, that's what they did. It was, you took these like almost like businessy type classes and you start off on a lower level and it's cheaper, but the higher up you go, you know, you want to attain that high level, but it gets more expensive. And they're like, well, you can just take out, you know, whatever mortgage, take a second mortgage out on your house. No, don't do that. Don't ever do that. Do not let anybody tell you. That is terrible advice. This is Advice Corner. Sorry, I burped. Right now, don't join a cult. If you think it might be a cult, consult with somebody who's sane and they will let you know.
Somebody on the outside.
Yes.
Because somebody on the inside is going to be like,
oh, no, it's not a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then if they're trying to make you go in debt, leave. Bye. No, they do not have your best interest in mind.
Right.
So get out. Flee.
They're the ones with tax-free status. They're the ones building all these fancy buildings with nobody in them all the time. They've got the money already.
Exactly.
They don't need your money.
You mean nothing to them. You're just money. You are just a feeder cow.
The parishioners, as they call them. That's what the regular people are.
Oh,
call them parishioners.
This is weird.
They have all their like weird names. Person who is against the church is a suppressive person or an SP. Operating Thetans, they just call them OTs. OT level 7 or whatever. You have your tonal system. You got E-meters.
This reminds me of Heaven's Gate a little bit too, which was a cult.
Well, it's smarter than Heaven's Gate because instead of killing themselves, they just keep making more money.
Yeah, but that wasn't the point of
right.
Gate,
I think they were less nefarious on purpose.
Yes,
in a lot of ways, they were just cuckoo, crazy pants.
Yes, exactly. And the people.
Also, Scientology. The whole thing with Scientology as well is like even people outside of it, like they harassed and like had PIs follow like IRS agents and stuff.
Why?
To try and harass them so that they would eventually give in and give them tax-free status, which they eventually got. Terrorism works, apparently.
Don't do it.
Well, it worked.
Wow.
They said so in that Star Trek episode, too.
What Star Trek episode?
Episode Star Trek The Next Generation. Or was it the old one? I forget. But
they call out Scientology?
I think it's Next Generation. Not Scientology, but just terrorism works. Uh-huh. And they give like fake examples. And then one of the examples was like, and then Ireland became united in 2020 something. And it's like, well, that deadline's coming up soon, guys.
Is it?
Yeah. That episode was banned in the UK because I think that was during the Troubles, as they called them.
IRA stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Yep.
So yeah, that and again they give names to all this stuff. There was a guy named David Minton. They talk about him in the Leah Remini episode, one of the episodes. Mm-hmm. where basically this girl who was under Scientology and was clearly like having a psychotic break of some sort, and went to a hospital, and then Scientologists came and got her to leave, and she eventually died. And
oh my gosh!
They formed this Linda McPherson Trust where it was like basically raised money for that stuff, and the Scientologists harassed them until they abandoned it, and they continued to harass and try and ruin the life of one of the guys who was a part of that, and until he committed suicide. Like, it's bad time.
Wow.
Like, they are actively like going out and
straight up terroristic bullies.
They have a thing called the fair game doctrine, which is where they are allowed to, under their doctrine, under L. Ron Hubbard's leadership, whatever his words were, that they can do anything that will like protect the church. You can lie, cheat, steal, harass, whatever, as long as it will help the Church of Scientology in the pursuit of like
Here's the thing.
stopping people against them, stopping the SPs.
When you are a child, you are taught right from wrong, and there are certain things that are clearly right and clearly wrong.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you grew up as a child in Scientology, you're right and wrong. What is ultimately right is anything that is in favor of Scientology.
Huh.
So
whether it's morally good or bad.
Yeah. So it's an ends justify the means sort of deal.
Yeah.
That's what's happening there.
Do they educate their children within the church?
Not really. Regular education is not important to them, actually.
Really?
Is not as important.
So you want stupid followers?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But according to them, it is far more important to know the words of L. Ron Hubbard than to get like a formal education knowing algebra or whatever.
See, and that's another way of controlling somebody is that they're not educated. They are blind.
They're uneducated and a lot of times poor because they didn't give any money.
Yeah.
Or they join like the Sea Org, where they're out at sea doing whatever bullcrap. Yeah. Or sometimes they're doing like, they're making them do like physical labor and like electrical labor and stuff. And it's like, these are not people trained to do that. Like they have a guy on there who lost an eye as a kid because it was like, I wasn't trained to be able to do construction.
Oh my gosh.
And you make like $50 a month or something crazy like that.
What?
So then you can't go anywhere. You don't have any money. You don't have any savings once you get out. And they sign billion-year contracts as well.
Which is ridiculous.
Because you're going to come back in your spirit.
So you're still stuck with us.
They do keep files on people after they die for like 20-something years, I think, for when they come back.
That's weird.
They've also built a bunch of houses for L. Ron Hubbard for when he comes back.
Oh, that's nice.
They've built like 5 mansions for him.
And they're empty?
Of course. Most Scientology buildings are basically empty.
Why?
Because it's to look like they're doing stuff.
Oh.
Like they have these massive, beautiful buildings, and it's like, look at what we're doing. We've got all of these followers. That's how all this money, and that's from all of you. So give us more money so we can keep doing this.
Sounds like a mega church.
Yeah,
Joel Osteen.
Except like international, and like they have celebrity centers in like Paris and Los Angeles, and Clearwater, Florida is like their big headquarters.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, go to downtown Clearwater next time and check out how much is Scientology and how much of those buildings are nothing.
What?
There's like.
Can you go into them?
Probably not. Probably some of them, they're like, hey, come on in. Put your hands on the e-meter. Let's see what's going on. But for the most part, if you look in, it's like there's nothing in. There's stuff in there, but there's no people. There's not actually anything happening.
Weird.
Which is kind of like goes along with like Scientology claims to have like millions or whatever of followers, parishioners. But realistically, it's way less.
Yeah.
They just count everybody who has ever like ended up on a mailing list on accident, basically.
Ooh.
So
it's
a bad place. Also, there's lots of abuse that goes on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a cult, of course.
Crazy amounts of abuse.
How has this not been shut down yet?
Well, now they got so much freaking money, it makes it even harder. There's also like when you get that tax-free status, like there's extra laws for like labor when it comes to like religious pursuits. Mm-hmm. So like, you can make kids do stuff in church or whatever without paying them because it's a church thing, whatever.
Right.
And so they abuse the hell out of that as part of their like loophole for like, this is why we only pay like $2.
They just don't sound like very fun people at a party.
No, they're not fun at all in lots of ways.
Yeah.
In like every way possible. They sound like a bunch, like it's bad.
Yeah. I encourage you all to just stay away from people that want to take your money, that tell you that lying, cheating, stealing, hurting, harassing.
And you don't get to know that stuff, a lot of that stuff, until you're in it.
Yeah.
Until you've bought in. What's really weird, though, to me, is hearing how many people get out of it not because they fundamentally think Scientology is bad. They just think that the people running the church these days are bad. So they're like, LRH, yeehaw, let's go. All his words, all the things he said, all the literature, whatever it is, the religious technology, as they call it, which is a fun thing. The tech. They, a lot of them still like, yeah, it's like a fundamental part of my life. I still believe in that. But David Miscavige and all the other people running the church, they're bad people, and I don't want to be a part of that. Which is kind of interesting in its own way, I guess. But don't join a cult. Also, like, especially if they're saying the secrets of salvation, but you gotta give some money to get to it.
Yeah,
that's a scam. Don't go for it.
That's like, I was listening to a podcast. It was a true crime podcast, and there's a guy who was like, there's a reward for like, a tip leading to the arrest of somebody or the discovery of somebody, a missing person or something. He's like, hey, I've got the tip for you, but I need the money first. And they were like, that's not how it works. But they were desperate. And finally they're like, he's like, no, I can tell you exactly where this person is and what happened to him. I just need the money first. And so finally they're like, okay, here's the money. He's like, yeah, I don't know anything. It's like, well, I mean, what did you expect? But
yeah, nothing up front like that when it's a sketchy random person.
I will say, my naive self, I was going to have my cabinets redone. And the guy, I was like, well, what if I pay you half now and half later? He's like, I'm going to stop you there. He said, don't ever offer that to anybody ever again. And I was like, oh. And he was like, you don't pay until the job is done because somebody can take your money. And I was like, I trust you. Do my cabinets. But I didn't because it was really expensive.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a little tidbit for you. Don't ever pay until the job is done.
And also make sure you know who these people are. Like, find other people who have like worked with them or something.
Yes. Yeah. Get some references. Always good to have references.
Yeah. And don't join Scientology. It's a bad group.
Yeah.
And even, I don't think I've talked about it much, but on that Leah Remini show, there's a co-host basically. His name is Mike Rinder, and he used to be like a high-ranking executive in Scientology, and he got out. So he knows a ton of that stuff. And when people are like, Scientology says, we didn't do this, he's like, no, they did. I was a part of that. We did that. I helped do that. I helped harass that guy until he killed himself.
Wow.
So, bad times.
Yeah.
It's a bad scene.
And when you're in a cult, it's hard to get out.
That they deliberately make it that way. I mean, it's like, hey, come work at Gold Camp or whatever the flip it's called. It's isolated from everybody else, and there's a barbed wire fence.
Yes.
And if you get out, the only other people who come around here are probably Scientologists, because why else would you?
And we'll just take you on back and then punish you.
Yeah, that's happened.
Yeah.
Like, there's stories about that. They're like, yeah, I got out, and then the only person who found me was a Scientologist, and they drove me right back.
And it's like, I mean, if somebody's trying to suppress you with, making you exhausted by working all the time, that's a form of mind control. And then, I mean...
Or isolating you.
Yes,
there's a story in there about
mind control.
In Going Clear where a kid got in trouble for something, and so they isolated him basically where the anchor is kept on the ship.
What?
And just left him there by himself.
Oh my gosh. That's abuse. That's child abuse.
It sure is.
They
also have a fun thing called overboarding, where if you need to be disciplined on the ship, they'll throw you overboard.
That's not
Sounds
safe.
dangerous. They do it from the lower decks now. The first time they did it was from about 4 stories up.
Did someone die?
I don't think he died. I think he was fine.
But
that's bad.
If you're interested, there is a podcast called Heaven's Gate, and it is all about Heaven's Gate, and it talks about mind control and tactics of cults and stuff. But as far as cults go, honestly, to be honest, Heaven's Gate was pretty benign.
Pretty chill.
Pretty benign.
They just did some weird things. They wore the same shoes.
Yeah.
They wanted to go hang out on a comet,
And they were happy that was their belief, and they all did it willingly, and they were allowed to leave.
But still don't.
Yeah. I mean, don't join a cult. But there was another podcast I listened to that was like, maybe it was about Jim Jones. I think it was about Jim Jones.
And if you search all of these on, I think last podcast on the left, if you're willing to listen to the obnoxiousness and the vulgarity that they bring, they're only on Spotify, which is frustrating. I haven't listened to them forever because of that.
Yeah.
But they've done good series on Joseph Smith of Mormonism, L. Ron Hubbard here of Scientology, Heaven's Gate. They've done a good one on Jim Jones as well. Like they've done really good stuff on all of those.
If you can find a good documentary, I just wish I could remember what it was called, but it was just something that talked about this is how they do mind control. There is
how they get you.
There is literally I'm trying to remember what company has it, but there is a podcast called Cults, and it talks about, you guessed it, cults. And they do talk about Jim Jones. They talk about a bunch of other ones. In each episode, they're kind of analytical about it and straightforward with the facts. And they just talk about, this is a form of manipulation and mind control, how they suppress you and control you. And it's like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't know about that. Losing sleep, depriving you of food, depriving you of communication with the outside world.
Yep. And
isolation.
That's a big part of Scientology. The suppressive person, the SP. If anybody who is, or even if they were a part of Scientology and they leave, they can be considered an SP, and the people within have to disconnect. So like when people leave Scientology, a lot of people won't leave Scientology fully because they know like their family, their like parents or children, whoever, are suddenly not going to associate with them ever again. And
that'll
keep
that
them,
happens with cults all the time. People that are in the cult, you are cut off. If your whole family's in it, you're cut off.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to make that choice.
Mike Render from the Scientology show I was talking about.
Yeah.
When he left, he was disconnected. He wasn't able to see his son when he was dying of cancer.
Oh my God.
So
that's really sad.
Yeah.
Oh my.
That's how tough a decision it is to leave.
Yes.
That like, oh, I'm not going to see my son again, even if he's dying of a disease. I'm not going to be able to be at his bedside or something. Wow.
I was actually watching, you can say that ultra-Orthodox Jews, which are like, they're very, I was watching this video about this guy who left being an ultra-Orthodox Jew, and he literally said there is a right way to wake up in the morning and there is a wrong way. And he said he eventually became a rabbi in a regular Jewish church. And he said the God of this Jewish and my Orthodox God are two different entities. He's saying that this is the God that I know, like of, the regular Jewish, whatever. This is the God I know, and that who's a real God. The other one is a vengeful, vindictive. There is a right way to put on your shoe. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and so even that you can say, and he said, I had to make a decision to leave, and I had to leave my kids behind with his wife at the time. And he said, and I was cut off. And now he's kind of reformed a relationship with some of his family and with his kids. He can talk to his kids now, but it's still like, that's a tough choice.
Yeah. That's not something somebody can do easily.
No.
And the same, and again, it even goes back to financially, because you're making $0 unless you're in the upper echelons of Scientology. That's how they keep you in.
No money.
If you're David Miscavige or one of the like big executives of Scientology, you're making bank. But if you're working in the Sea Org, you're making nothing, and you don't know anybody outside the Sea Org or Scientology and all that.
I was trying to look up. There are help groups for people leaving cults, because it is a deprogramming thing. You literally have to reroute your mind because you have been brainwashed. Whether or not you believe it or not, there is brainwashing, and people control you through abuse and through these tactics. They control your mind. You
even see it at like a smaller scale with like abused women and stuff.
I was just thinking that 100%. It's the same tactics an abuser, a singular abuser will use against their abusee.
Yeah, that's like a much smaller version of it, like less people involved, less making bank, but listen to
this. This is from daretodoubt.org. It helps you detach from harmful belief systems, and it not cults, but not even just cults, other things as well. But this is interesting. I just read it just now. It kind of defined what a cult was, and then This list is not a diagnostic tool. It is only meant to help you analyze for yourself whether you may have cause for concern based on common pattern found in cultic groups. These are the bullet points for it. Does your group show unquestioning commitment to its leader, alive or dead? Are doubts and questions discouraged or punished?
That is in Scientology.
Yes.
If you doubt or question,
you don't believe.
No, it's not just that you don't believe. It means there's something wrong with you. It means you've done something wrong, and that doubt is manifesting because of the wrong thing that you did.
Interesting.
Yeah. Same thing if you get sick, it is because you have done something wrong.
Yes.
It is your body is manifesting this as punishment to yourself.
That's like, I can't remember what it's called, but I watched, it was a TikTok about this girl who left an ultra Christian. I think it's kind of the same thing that the Duggars are involved with. If you've ever seen 19 Kids and Counting or whatever, it's the same echelon of what the Duggars are involved with. And she was saying the same thing. They homeschool. They're taught the women are taught, discouraged from going to college. They're given basic education, but they're taught in things like piano, sewing, mothering, cooking, things like that. Wearing no makeup, keeping your hair long.
Do they do the jean skirt thing?
Not necessarily.
Okay, I was just wondering.
No, but they do dress modest. They can wear...
I knew a lot of Pentecostals,
right,
which is a similar thing as far as like, I mean, I don't know what the Duggars do necessarily.
Yeah.
But
they're
Pentecostals...
some kind of Baptist.
Pentecostals, the women don't cut their hair.
Right.
So a lot of them, I'm going to make fun of them for a second.
Oh.
They know I make fun of them for this. I knew a bunch. But sometimes they do their hair in a weird way, and it looks like they have the hair helmet from Flight of the Conchords, where Brett was making a bike helmet that had hair on it, so it looked like it was just his hair. And it was like, your hair is too much. It's too much going on there. And then they also don't wear makeup, and they don't wear pants. They wear skirts exclusively. Right. So you'll see a lot of the jean skirts, which don't seem that much more comfortable, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Sorry. Anyway. Continue on.
Okay. Are mind-altering techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, and sleep deprivation or overworking used in excess, which unwittingly or not often serve to suppress doubts about the group and its leadership?
Overworking, and go back to the beginning of that. There was something else.
Meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues.
Meditation, they do something like that in Scientology. I forget the name of it now. But Leah Remini talks about it a bunch in her book, where basically you can't let the outside world control you. So like there's a whole thing of where you train to just sit and not react to anything. Like somebody will be like, hey, F you, you're a dumb hoe or whatever. And you just have to be like blank. Like, this does not affect me in any way. So that's kind of a meditation-ish type thing.
Does the leadership dictate how members should think, act, and feel, how they should dress, where they should live, and whom they should marry?
Yeah, that's Scientology.
Does the group feel they're on a special mission to save humanity?
That's Scientology. That's the whole thing.
Do they see their leader as a special being or an avatar?
Yeah, because they say he's coming back, and he's got to have 5 houses to live in.
Does the group have an us versus them mentality?
You better believe it. You and me, we're SPs right now, baby.
We are. Does the leadership induce feelings of shame or guilt in order to influence or control members?
Yes. Again, that's the whole, if you have doubts, if you are feeling wrong, it is because of something wrong you did.
Yep. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Yes.
Again, that's a lot of the disconnection stuff. Also, Leah Remini talked about she had some issue with Scientology, and like anytime, like the whole auditing process they were going through, because that's what they call it, they were like, why did that happen? What are you doing wrong that made that happen? Like, and just constantly for hours at her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Does the group require members to cut ties with family and friends, or to radically alter the personal goals and activities members had before they joined? Yes.
Yep.
Is the group preoccupied with bringing in new members and or making money?
Making money, baby.
Do you fear backlash to yourself or others if you leave, or even consider leaving the group? If you answer yes to some of these questions, it does not automatically mean you're in a cult.
What about all of them?
Yeah.
Because that's Scientology.
We acknowledge the subjectivity of words like excessive and radical. What's considered excessive, one person may seem like not enough to someone else. Trust yourself. What's true for others does not have to be true for you. However, if you answer yes to all of them...
That almost sounds like a L. Ron Hubbard quote. He says something that was like, if it is not true for you, then it is not true. Like, that's an L. Ron Hubbard quote.
Huh.
Weird, right? Where are you at? Scientology.com/join?
No, don't do it. So anyways, that was 5 tips for leaving a cult recovery. Wow. This is a great website. if any of our listeners are in a cult.
Also, if you're and here's another thing, in Scientology, you're encouraged to not use the internet.
Yep.
Because they don't want you looking at stuff that might be anti-Scientologist.
Yep. So, I mean, I feel like we've said this a lot lately, and I don't know why, but don't join a cult.
Why have we? Probably because I started reading all the Scientology stuff lately.
Yes.
That's probably part of it.
I think you might be right.
And also, you did the Nexium stuff.
Yeah, I was listening to documentary.
Yeah, so that's probably why. It's just been on our mind lately.
And really, cults are fascinating. I mean, it's just like, how do you get to that point?
Yeah.
I know how you get to that point, because they purposefully just feed on people that have self-doubt or are looking for fulfillment in life and haven't found it. And they're like, let me tell you about my belief.
Yeah, people want to be a part of something, especially if
something
it's
big and meaningful.
Yeah, I think the thing I was reading about Alcoholics Anonymous once was like part of the, not steps, but part of the like process for like getting clean or whatever was like a belief in something more greater than you.
Yeah. Not
necessarily like a religious thing, but just like something that is more than just you, something that you can believe in.
Yeah.
It could be anything, but like it doesn't have to be like I'm a Christian now. It could be something else. It doesn't even have to be religious.
Yeah.
Because people want to belong to a group of some sort.
Yeah.
So,
another tactic
that's just natural, despite weirdos who are like, oh, people shouldn't, society, blah, blah, blah. It's not natural. It's like, it's the most natural. Humans are social creatures.
Yeah.
It's how society formed in the first place in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We're not lizards, you weirdos.
But
some people are, maybe.
Another tactic I thought of was something that Nexium labeled love bombing. Well, I don't know if they labeled it, but it is a tactic called love bombing.
I was going to say, that's not Nexium exclusive.
No, it is a tactic called love bombing. It's where
Scientologists use this.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure.
Where you go in and you're a visitor and they just bombard you with making you feel welcome and loved because, oh my gosh, you've been looking for this place of acceptance and these people understand you and you can be a part of them.
Yep.
And so that's love bombing.
Yeah, that's pretty...
Don't fall for it.
Yeah, Scientologists definitely do that. And it's a whole thing.
You know, I actually was listening to something. I was listening to another murder show, another murder podcast, and that's something that abusers do. It's love bombing. They abuse you, and then, the relationship starts out. It's great. They're the greatest person you've ever met. They're so sweet to you. They're so attentive. They care about you so much. And then their true colors start to show. And, and then they become abusive, and then, they've hit you. They've crossed the line. They've hit you. Then they come back, baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I don't deserve you. Please, I love you so much. Blah, blah, blah. That's love bombing. So don't fall for it. It's okay to have boundaries.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no.
Just look at the earth. There's tons of boundaries everywhere.
Yeah.
There's borders and everything.
Yeah. There's oceans. You can't swim across an ocean.
Don't listen to those Doctors Without Borders. There's some borders. We need them for certain things.
That's right.
I'm not saying build a wall. I'm just saying we have borders.
That's right. Anyways, okay. I think you all get the drift.
Yeah, I'm listening to a 17-hour book, so I'm gonna be. Yeah. This is gonna be in my brain forever. I'm gonna watch that documentary once I finish it. See how different it is.
Yeah, let me know. Let us know. Let us all know.
I think it's on HBO. It was a big deal when it came out. I remember. It's called Going Clear.
I don't remember it.
Weird. There's other Scientology stuff out there. I think there's a Hulu movie about Scientology. Maybe I'll check that out at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bet it's all pretty close to the same.
Right. So this is just what I'm doing now. Sorry, you don't get to hear about Grand Admiral Thrawn anymore. You get to hear about Xenu.
Or WandaVision because it's all out right now.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Or maybe we'll talk about Justice League. Because it's going to be 4 flipping hours long. The Snyder cut. I don't know if I can put up with 4 hours of Zack Snyder garbage.
I don't know about all that.
Which originally the movie was supposed to be 2 movies. So I guess 4 hours that kind of checks out. It would have been 2-hour movies.
Yeah.
If you look back at what the original DC slate was when they were going into Batman v Superman, it's just depressing because it's like, we're going to do Batman v Superman and Wonder Woman and then Justice League, and then we're going to do a Flash movie and a Cyborg movie and then that Batman movie with Ben Affleck. And we were going to do just 2 Justice League movies, actually. And we're going to bring back Green Lantern for a different movie. And then we're going to do a Martian Manhunter. And it's like, None of that has happened at all. It's all gone so sideways.
It's because Marvel was like, nah, this is our show, bro.
Well, it's because DC didn't bother to make good movies.
Also that.
They made Man of Steel, which was kind of good, some of it.
I do like Henry Cavill. I like the Wonder Woman movies. I thought they both were pretty good.
I still haven't seen the second one. The first one was good, though.
Yeah, I liked those. Aquaman, it was...
I'm looking forward to Zack Snyder, seeing if he can top himself. Because in Man of Steel, he made what I thought was the dumbest scene ever, which is the tornado scene.
Martha?
Well, in Man of Steel, he did the tornado scene.
Oh, which one's that?
It's the one where Pa Kent dies in a tornado that Clark could have easily gone and dealt with and not even looked like Superman when he did it.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Kent was an idiot, I guess, and was like, no, I'm going to go die for this dog instead. One of the dumbest scenes I've ever seen in my life.
The dog was worth it.
Then Batman v Superman comes out and he tops it with the Martha scene.
The Martha. What did you say? What did you say? So
I'm hoping Justice League has something that somehow tops the Martha scene in being the dumbest thing possible that Zack Snyder could have come up with. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
He already had Joker saying, we live in a society in the freaking that last trailer. This is so dumb.
Just don't expect too much, okay?
I'm just glad that it is on streaming so I can pause it and take breaks because it is 4 hours long again.
It's like watching Titanic.
Oh my gosh.
When you were a kid.
Yeah.
And you had
on 2 VHSs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And you had to get up and go switch out the VHS. Yep.
Maybe there'll be like an intermission on the movie even. It'll be like, hey.
Gone with the Wind was also 2 VHSs.
Gone with the Wind was too long. My parents were watching it on TV once and it was like in the middle of the day and I left and like went and hung out with my friends around the neighborhood, throwing rocks in the creek or whatever we were doing, riding bikes, playing video games at their house. And I came back after dark and that freaking movie was still going.
Yep. It's a long one.
Unbelievable.
It's a doozy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You know what else is ridiculous?
Scientology, David Miscavige, Tom Cruise. Leah Remini's thoughts on Tom Cruise are pretty interesting. She does not care for him.
I think a lot of people in Hollywood don't.
And she thinks he's a real weirdo. Like she says she went over for dinner at his house and he wanted to play hide and seek. And there's all kinds of weird... She has some weird stories about him.
Nicole Kidman, it's time for you to tell your story.
I would love... Her and Katie Holmes. I need them
Yes,
out
Katie
there.
Holmes. Yes. She's more recent than Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Yep. I need both of them to go ahead and come forward. They won't, though.
They're probably scared of Scientology because
exactly.
they're going to send PIs and follow them around and try and harass them until they commit suicide.
They won't talk about it.
It's because it's a bad time. They treat people horribly.
That's so bad.
Yeah, it really is.
Don't treat anybody bad. Okay?
Yeah,
let that be a life lesson.
Follow whatever it was Michael Scott said, where he's like, don't do anything to anybody, anywhere, for any reason whatsoever, no matter what, whatever the whole spiel was.
You heard it. You heard it from Michael Scott. It's true. Okay, I think we have to wrap it up.
I think so, too.
All right. Guys, thanks for sticking with us, talking about a tragic case and then more tragic stuff called cults. But hey, we drop episodes every Tuesday. You can catch us on Facebook at Paint the Town Dead. You can catch us on Instagram at Paint the Town Dead, all one word. You can email us at pttdpod@gmail.com. And you can find us on Twitter at pttdpod. Please be sure to subscribe on anything you can, rate 5 stars on anything you can, like anything, share stuff, especially share stuff. Anything and any interaction you have really helps us out. We super greatly appreciate it. Like I said, we drop episodes every Tuesday unless I get called in, I'm sick. What else was it?
The plane thing?
Yeah, I get caught on a plane. Pretty much it's all me so far. Can't wait for it to be Andrew.
Never will be.
But hey guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. You make this possible and we really appreciate it. So we'll see you next week with a brand new episode.
And as they would say in Scientology, get blown.